All right, so we have a quorum. Let's call it meeting to order.
Gavel, 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 like it.
All right. Citizens' comments, I assume we have none.
We have so many citizens, don't we?
Don't see any citizens on board. Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes from our last meeting?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Any comments? Questions? Corrections?
Nope.
All those in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Administrative reports. I don't really have much. I did, just a little bit ago, I sent all, the board, an email with a link to participate in the state, historic preservation offices, creating a new state preservation plan, which they do every 5 years, and this is a chance for public input. So if you're interested, there's a link on that. You can go online and present your opinions on historic preservation plans for the statewide. Other things I have talked about, I'll wait till we talk about brick streets or comprehensive plan until we get to those. So
I have a question on that. Do you
Yeah.
have any like cliff notes you could email us? Things we might want to comment on to kind of emphasize, or is it really just up to us?
it's just an opinion thing.
Okay.
So purely an opinion, you don't have to have any expertise.
Okay,
Just your thoughts. They send it out to a wide array of folks. Basically, at anyone in the state, any citizen, and anyone can participate, just present opinions.
nice. Okay.
So. Okay, that's my report. And do you have anything?
Commissioner,
Yes.
commission wise, I sent an email, did you all get the comp plan email I sent?
Yes.
Okay, there was a
Yes.
big, discussion session. Wait, somebody online said something. I'll assume you said, yeah, sure.
Oh, yeah, no, I just did, yeah.
You'll watch the video that I sent out because it's so interesting, but in case you didn't.
Now we're wrong.
Exactly, so now we're on. In case you didn't, there's a high level PowerPoint, but really the meat is coming in November. So that's just kind of like a teaser. And I just want to emphasize, beg, plead you all to give a heavy input in November when the final draft plan is released and there's public comment, and there'll be a way to do that to denote that you're an advisory board. So I can see that information as well, and really, anonymously if you want, but as an advisory board, then we can really make sure to advocate for those positions. Because the comp plan is how we're gonna make funding decisions, and even more so in the past, it's tied into the CIP and to our budget moving forward. So it really will be the strategic document that guides our decisions. I want like a lot of historic character preservation in there.
There's some, certainly. And actually, I was gonna mention this later, but I'm filling in for Marilyn at the planning board meeting tomorrow night. And we're meeting with the consultants to talk about the draft of the comprehensive plan. So I will have a chance to provide our input there
That's amazing.
as part of that discussion.
I was worried those meetings were done and you hadn't got like.
It's not a task force meeting, they're presenting the draft, I think, similar
Yeah.
to probably what they presented to you
want your
guys.
input.
And they
Good.
want the input of the planning board and the leads on various people who participate in that.
Love it.
So I will be there for that one tomorrow night.
Thank you for doing that. Other than that, budget dates, we're still finalizing them, but it looks like we're pretty close to, making those dates public. There'll be 2 or 3 in November and then 1 in December, 4 total. And then when historic preservation related items, when the budget dates are finalized, there'll also be a tentative agenda, and I can send that out so you can tune in and also advocate for anything historic preservation related, like streets. We asked for, was it no money this year or a small amount? Do you remember historic preservation? I don't think.
No, we didn't.
I didn't think so. We didn't ask for anything.
We don't have any signs.
We don't have any more signs. We're good.
We're
So mostly.
I mean, we have some money for educational programs that's rolling over,
Mhm.
so. We're doing our bit to help balance the budget.
Exactly, I love it. And then.
Just to be clear, that's not to say there is no
There's
Brick
lots
Street
of-
repair money.
But Brick Street's a separate issue,
Brick
right?
Streets is separate.
No, I mean, there is a Brick Street repair allocation.
Right, at it, yes.
Yeah.
There wasn't a request for it.
When we do have the budget agendas for those 4 meetings, they do fluctuate a little bit depending on how fast or slow we get through things. So I'll send it out when I do know when we're talking about Brick Streets, but then it might change. So just kind of look for some follow-up information or pay attention as much as you can. And you can tune in, watch live. There's no public comment in budget, but plenty of time to get public comment in the public discussion session that are 8 p.m. second and fourth Tuesday, or email me or email all commission. It's probably best if it's really timely right now about budget to email all commission. Any questions?
Good. Laura, you got anything for us?
I don't. I told you last time that my assistant public information officer resigned. I do have a person who's accepted an offer. We are just waiting to negotiate his separation date from his current employer. Who is unhappy with his partner, so he will be aboard as soon as I can possibly get him here. I'm very excited. He's very excited to be coming, so.
Love it. I'm glad you
Excellent.
got somebody. Good.
All right, Brick Streets. Did you guys get a chance to take a look at the thing that Matt sent us with his revisions to the policy already?
Yes.
Matt can't be here today, but I told him that I would bring it up so that we could discuss it. I think I really like what he's done. There's a couple of really good points there, which we've been, and one of the things Matt and I have been part of this process since the beginning. And Matt has always done an excellent job wordsmithing stuff for us, so I think he's done a really nice job with some of this. Two main points in this, what we're proposing here. One is this whole issue about using the historic district as a basis for making decisions about historic preservation. This has been something we've been pushing on since the beginning, because a lot of people don't realize, well, the historic district is really totally arbitrary. Those boundaries were basically set because we ran out of money to keep evaluating properties to expand the district. I mean, it had already expanded quite a bit before we got to the final boundaries that were put in. Places outside of the boundaries are still historic, but still have the potential even to be on the district. And so we don't think that creating that boundary as one of the criteria and making it prominent as a criteria for whether we're preserving, having historic preservation for Brick Streets or anything else for that matter is warranted. Because really, from the municipality's perspective, we want to preserve anything that's historic, not just something that's in the district. And that was part of the issue with the folks from Duquesne who came in and protested several many years ago, because the district ended right at the beginning of their street.
Yeah.
On Cedar, not Cedar, Cedar. Was it Cedar? Yeah, it was Cedar. That was part of what they were. So why weren't we in the district? That's why we lost our street and so forth. And so we think there should be wording in the policy to sort of avoid making that the determining criteria for something overall. And the other is that as we've made this point all along, public discussion is important. Notifying the public is critical in historic preservation. That's the only tool we have really, is have conversations. We don't really have a stick or a hammer to enforce anything. Even at the federal level, that's how it works, is it's all a matter of debate and coming with a compromise solution to potentially avoid, or at least to maybe mitigate the impact, if you can avoid the impact, to destroy something historic. That PennDOT plan that was created several years ago, when PennDOT destroyed a Brick Street in the municipality, they were required by federal law as part of the mitigation of that negative impact to an historic property in the district, to have a plan created. And that's why, one of the reasons why it focused on the historic district, because it was under federal guidelines that they were preparing that report. And that was one of the bases for considering whether something's going to be preserved or not. If that street had not been in the historic district at that time, for instance, PennDOT wouldn't have had to do anything to tear it up. But because it was in the historic district, they had to go through the process and develop a mitigation plan. The mitigation plan was, well, we'll create this preservation plan for Mount Lebanon, but it did emphasize the historic district. But we want to go beyond that. So that's one of the reasons for the wording for that and for the public comment. Okay. So I would like to propose that we actually vote on sending this forward to the commission as a recommendation. I mean, that's all we can do,
The
really.
only concern I have with that is a few of the things contain comments as if it's a suggestion to revise it, but there's not a suggested revision. So,
Well, it's rewritten it as a suggested revision.
Yeah, there,
Whenever there's a
am I looking
comment,
at the right one that was sent from Matt on the title is Proposed Brick Street Policy, Preservation Policy Red Line. Is that the correct document?
that's what I have.
What's the date on that?
Friday,
It was Friday, the 13th.
it's into the whole HPV, yeah.
Yeah.
Friday at 4. HPB is the email. Check your email Friday, the 13th, 4:20. He sent it to Historic Preservation Board.
I'm not a historic preservation board member, so it would have to be, you have to copy me.
Why aren't you on that list? Is that by design? I thought you were on Historic Preservation Board this whole time. I might have sent other things. So when I go to Historic Preservation Board at mountlebanon.org, you don't get it? Oh, really? Because I also have a sports advisory board and an environmental sustainability board, and I assume that the liaisons, the staff is on all of those. I might have been doing it wrong this whole time.
So did he send one earlier as well?
I didn't see it
No, it's
earlier.
just the one on Friday that he sent.
I'm gonna forward it to you, Laura, and we gotta figure out separately.
Thought that
This
he
HPV
did copy
email.
Laura on that. Didn't,
Well, he sent it to the whole HPV,
right?
the Historic Preservation Board at mountlebanon.org, but it looks like Laura might not be on that distribution list.
Right, I usually copy her on, in addition to sending things to the board, because she's not,
I always thought she was on the board as liaison, because I'm on it, right? I get it.
no, we take copy you too, we send it to you as well.
So this
Send
board
stuff
does
to the board.
different than
The
the other
board-
ones.
Yeah, I don't know how it was set,
Ah.
email was created, but yeah, basically just the actual volunteer members of the board are the HPV.
I see.
Liaisons, I have to be CC'd and other folks have to be CC'd.
Yeah, that's not consistent, but that is very good to know with the other board, but that's very good too. So I'm gonna send you, Laura, just another couple of things that I sent to the board.
All right,
Okay,
well, in
but go
that
ahead,
case, why
yeah.
don't we, I'll propose that we, take a close look at it, send your comments to Matt. And he can finalize some very, the specific recommendations. And language that we will then forward to the board as a recommendation. I mean, the board's already passed this policy. At this
Yeah,
point,
so
we're looking at modifying
Another
it.
month is fine, yeah, but I would love to do it, I'd love to ask to do it soon. Okay, so, you'll take comments.
But Matt and I will take comments.
Oh, yeah, that's right, sorry, Matt will take comments.
That's the one word smithing this one for us.
Okay.
And I've already sent him some comments and just those are the two main points, I think that, I mean, he did some editing there that, like I said,
Yeah.
he's good words.
Yeah, he's a good editor. I mean,
About
yeah.
an incomplete sentence of the policy that I had.
You'll want to present the commission with a red line version.
Mhm.
So they can see what the proposed change is and what the current policy
Yeah,
is.
yes. So we'll work on it, but so go ahead and send your comments to Matt, you can copy me. And we'll get something specific that we can all agree on to recommend to the commission. These are things we want we're thrilled that there's a policy. Keep in mind, no matter what I say, how many criticisms I have, it's a big hurdle to actually create that policy. That's a heavy lift.
Uh-huh.
And I am so thrilled that we actually have that, right? I mean, there's so many good things there, but there are some elements that we want to keep in public view that we feel important. And those are two of the main ones. So
Awesome, yeah.
we will We will do that and get that. to
If you think that's, yeah, and if you can't get it to 100%, in some sections you just wanna, you know, you take a look at it, everybody, give your comments over, give your feedback, and if at the end of the day, you still have some areas that are like commented, like what's this mean or whatever,
Yeah.
then that's okay, that's where it is, like,
Alright.
you know, and I'll try to get those questions answered. And I'm not trying to say you can't have any comments, it just looked like, maybe it wasn't ready for a recommendation yet.
Okay. We will clean that up. All right,
But Matt probably wanted to know if the board agrees with the general sentiment,
right, so let him know what you think of what he had to say.
so that I can say this represents HPB, you know.
Yes, we want it to be something that's, you know, something coming from the board, not just from Matt.
Sounds good.
Although,
good.
you know, like I say, Matt has been working on this a long time.
Yes.
All right, public education. Alan, you got stuff for us, I think.
Yep. So at our last meeting, we were speaking about the Teresa Duff presentation and doing it in conjunction with the Historical Society. Grace got back to us that the Historical Society is overbooked. And so they would be willing to advertise it for us, but we're gonna go it alone. So I contacted the library and we secured Tuesday, December 5th at 7 p.m. To do the presentation. Teresa's on board. We've sent both to Laura and to the library some the name of the topic, which is historic preservation, bridging the past, present, and future. We sent her a bio of Teresa. And so she's preparing for that. So we're all set with that first presentation.
And is that free or do people need reservations? Okay.
And thank you. Sorry for badgering you, but we were able to get it in the
Okay,
November
good.
magazine. I thought it was important to get it in there so that people save the dates.
That's
so.
great. I was pushing as fast as I could.
I know. I'm nothing if not pushy about the print deadline, so.
I understand. So that's squared away. For the This Old Sustainable House series next year. The first day we had, February 6th, actually ended up being taken now by another group. So we have secured now February 20th, March 5th, and March 19th as our dates. And those are on the calendar now with the library. So then Mary Ellen and myself and Greg Wharton met to go over and we developed a list of 10 different topics that are up on the screen here that we wanted to get some feedback from the larger group before we start contacting potential speakers and trying to tie things down. So one of the questions we had too was, and we can talk about this more, is this old sustainable house necessarily the correct topic? Because maybe some things may be less applicable to sustainability, but maybe still of interest to people. So we can talk about that. But in no particular order, you know, these are the things that we discussed. So the needs and usage, which would be more of a look from a real estate perspective. You know, what are people looking for? What are people doing? What should you avoid? What can you do to help out with things? So, you know, it's sort of a more general topic about, you know, what sort of things resonate, you know, as you're looking to sell or buy a home.
That sounds really interesting to me personally. That one.
So
And it ties into people's property values and how to renovate.
Yeah.
Which direction to go.
the second one was like having a home inspector. What do they come and see when they look at different houses? What can you do to be prepared for something like that? And you know, how do you address some of those issues in your home? So that was another one. A third one was a safety presentation from the Mount Lebanon Fire Department, just talking about things in your home related to safety issues.
Those two seem really related to me.
Yeah, and
inspection.
the idea is.
Yeah.
We are, each session that we have is an hour and a half, so we're
Uh-huh.
thinking that we could possibly have two speakers.
Two
come
topics, yeah.
with two topics at each one, so if we wanted to group
Tag
two
team,
together, we could do something like that.
I can see those two going together.
The next one was adding solar panels to your home, how to go about finding the right panels, how to go about looking for tax credits, how to go about, what kind of roof you have and how that impacts adding solar, what you have to do to your electrical system. So I think right now there are good tax credits out there for solar, so that could be something.
I would just interject there, we'd have to make sure that that presenter is not speaking about specific products. That they have to be general in nature, that they can't, for example, if they were to say, you need, really, this is the best type of solar panel to have, and it
Yeah.
just happens to be that they're the only people that sell that, I would be very careful, both from a term of the perspective of this being a government appointed board, but the library also feels the same way. So I know I've said that before, I'm just reiterating it.
Yep. The next one was just, if you're making choices on materials to upgrade things in your home, can you make more sustainable choices? So whether it's fabrics or paints or carpets or woodwork or whatever, what are the sustainable choices you can make? And what might those be? And there you may be talking more about
Products, yeah.
product.
Descriptions, not
Yeah,
brands, yeah.
correct.
And I mean, I get that a lot. Somebody will call because I'm the liaison, and they'll say, hey, can you give me a contractor that does this? And I can't.
Right.
So.
So for paints, for instance, you could say you should look for VOC levels less than X.
Right.
And then not necessarily that you need to have Sherwin-Williams paint. So that was one. The next one we had was how to set your home up for an electric vehicle.
That's a question we get a lot, I think, in the municipality and even personally, but I think it's like 5 to 10 minutes of material. There's not that many options, run through them, and then I don't know if that would, but you might still wanna do it.
That
Even
could be
with
a
question
small
and
part of
answers.
something.
Yeah, it could be
Yes.
the third piece.
Right.
The other thing I would be careful about solar panels too, is it disqualifies you from the historic district if they're visible.
Really? We should tell people that then. They didn't know.
Well, if they're not visible, it's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So flat roof
Visible's-
behind something.
Right.
yeah,
It
they're
changes the architectural
visible. Integrity. yeah.
integrity of the
Yeah.
house to do something like that substantial in modification.
This seems like the kind of place we should inform people, like.
But
Right.
wouldn't it though be if it's something that can be taken off of the house without disturbing the character of the house?
No, I mean, because a lot of modifications can be, but once the
Windows could be
modification
taken
is
out, but yeah.
installed, then at that moment in time, this is not a contributing member to the historic district.
Which is fine, you can still talk about it, I would just make sure that,
I mean,
because you are the
free to do
historic.
what they want. In fact, that would be an interesting part of the conversation is try to linking, greening efforts with historic preservation. And when do they come in conflict? How do you go about doing that? When do what are the decisions you need to make? And they're all personal decisions. I mean, we can't dictate to anybody that they keep that whole drafty household and drafty
Right.
because that's historic, right?
But St. Paul's, for example, their solar roof is not visible from the street, so it'd be all right.
So if you're south facing away from the street.
Well, right, there might be ways of doing that would be historically sustainable.
Yeah.
And which would be part of it, and if you got someone who could talk about how to do that, or the ins and outs of that would be good.
Okay. One of the things that Greg Wharton brought up was, there's a faculty member at Mount Lebanon High School, Mike Gullo, who's done a series of things related to sustainability, created videos and things. And so he had mentioned him as a possibility as one of the speakers.
He'd bring his kids, bring his high schools, juniors and seniors probably with him. They are great advocates and he wants to give him lots of like experience talking, you know, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
He's great. I see him all the time. Everybody's telling him to do stuff lately. I don't know why his name is just like everywhere, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
The next one was sustainable landscaping. What do you do? What can you do to have, use less water, use less fertilizers? Use native plants, make things, deer resistant, reduce the amount of lawn you're taking care of. All those kinds of things could go into a sustainable landscaping discussion. Getting your home to net zero, that would be a much bigger kind of topic to take place. But there are ways to do that, or even if you have an existing house, what can you do to get closer to net zero? And then the last one we had was just improving your building envelope. So it'd be like insulation, windows, doors, roof, those sorts of things, as well as improving HVAC systems to be more efficient. So that was kind of the list that we came up with of potential topics. I think we have ideas for people we could contact in each of those areas to bring in speakers. But we wanted to get folks' opinions about, maybe what are the top 6 or 8 that we could maybe look at to combine and then go from there.
Open it up to the board members, the voting members. What do you think residents care about the most?
Well, it strikes me, initially that there isn't anything specifically about an historic home per se, right? So we need to change the title, this old sustainable house. Because what's, I think, intriguing about this is it's an opportunity to bring together a lot of these new ideas for being greener and still maintain the architectural integrity of your home, whether it's historically designated now or potentially if you maintain the integrity, it could be considered historic in the future even. So for a lot of these different topics, we're talking about specific changes to the houses to improve them, to make them greener. Can we also maybe as part of the conversation, talk about and still maintain architectural integrity or historical architectural integrity? So that in each of those cases, that would be valuable to people who have older homes, because a lot of we have people come to us and say, well, I want to modify my porch or I need to fix it. This is what I'm thinking. Can you tell me, is this going to impact its historical character or not? And that's often an issue because people don't know. Well, don't know that putting a bunch of solar panels in the front of your house is going to change the historical
Go ahead,
integrity, right?
You can unmute. We can hear you anytime you want to speak up.
Okay, yeah, I just didn't want to interject over Phil. I sort of get sort of the same sense looking through all of this. I'm on board for like all of these conversations and topics for sure, but I definitely think it trends more towards just like this sustainable house rather than it being a historic one necessarily. So I would like to see like maybe because we're the Historic Preservation Board, like some more incorporation to how does it apply to a house that's within the historic district that somebody wants to historically preserve, etc. I feel like these things could apply to like any house, which is great. Obviously, we're catering to just more than one type of person for sure. But it definitely trends more towards only sustainability and not both sustainability and historic preservation of an older home.
We could actually have like a subtitle to the title, this old sustainable house, how to maintain your historic character while making, sustainable upgrades or something.
Yeah.
And so then it's right in the title every time. And we can then tell all of our speakers, hey, we want to have that focus as a part of what you're talking about. So they're thinking about those things. So yeah, that's a good suggestion.
Or even if we title it maintaining architectural integrity.
Oh.
So that it would apply to folks that maybe have a home built in the 1950s, but still want to maintain the integrity of that time period,
Yeah,
even though it's not in the district.
yeah.
So it would appeal to people, not just people that have really old houses, but people who have, how they want to maintain this architectural integrity of that particular neighborhood or that structure, and they're concerned about that. So, I mean, that's in part what we're talking about, is you can create an entirely green, sustainable house and totally change the architectural integrity, so it stick out like a sore thumb in the middle of your neighborhood. And your neighbors will be all ticked off, that sort of thing. So that is a good, important conversation I think we can have as part of this series.
Yeah, I agree with Phil.
Something I wanted to interject from a municipal standpoint is, because this is an official board presentation, we'll need to just kind of get a look at any handouts that are gonna be distributed. If anybody has like presentations ahead of time that we could double check just to make sure the proper logos are used, things like that. My office normally helps out with this kind of thing, and we still can. Just know this is kind of smack right in the middle of our residence academy that we're kind of 100% committed to. So, so I guess what I'm saying is the earlier you can get information to me, if you need us to make handouts, put together folders. Like I said, you have just slightly under $1,500 budget, so you can make printouts. You could do folders for people. You could do, whatever you needed to do with that budget. So.
Design a flyer, or is that what we were thinking about doing? Promote it, or
Well, we could promote it with a poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would need that sooner rather than later, because for a February and March events, we would really need to start pushing that at the end of November, beginning of December. So if you have those locked in, we can create a poster, put it around. I can also bring them into you and you can hand them out in your groups. If somebody wants to go down Washington Road and see if people will put them in like the coffee shops and stuff like that, a lot of local businesses will help.
Yeah.
So.
Get a decent amount of people.
For the poster, Laura, do you need just the dates and where it is, or do you need all the topics on the poster?
Well, I mean, it would be what you think would attract people to mark their calendars and come to it. So, yeah, I mean, just telling people we're having this seminar and here are the dates, I don't know that that's enough for somebody to actually save space in their personal calendar. So I think the sooner you can get out there and tell them what it is, and I'm not sure that it's a reasonable expectation that somebody would come to all three. They might, but they're probably going to pick and choose the topics that interest them. I mean, if they come to the first one and like it,
Yeah.
and certainly we'll promote the heck out of it on our social media, on our website, in the magazine. So that'll all be out there. But again, the more specific we can get, the more targeted your audience is going to be. So,
Well, if we can narrow down or prioritize some of these topics, I think we can start to line up speakers in the next few weeks to try to at least give you a topic and a name of a speaker or two.
Yeah. Do we want to try to
Sure,
pull
if
some
they're,
out now that sound really great? Or what's everybody's like top 2 favorite or something? Maybe we can start there. Really, what do you like really called to? I really don't want to miss this one myself. Read them again real quick.
the first one was sort of just from the real estate perspective. The second was home inspections, third, safety, adding solar panels, sustainable materials, what you do for an electric vehicle, conservation techniques, sustainable landscaping, net zero homes, improving your building envelope, and HVAC.
That's the last one, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Well, it seems like we could potentially take these topics and they could be sorted out into 3 groups. There's.
I think that was the plan, right, Alan? I mean, we would do like 2 or 3.
Correct.
But I mean, the first 3, there are linked more towards acquiring your home, get it inspected when you're gonna buy it. A safety inspection. Then there's the ones about specifically making improvements to the home itself. And then there's more of sort of conservation and landscaping techniques, the outside of your home.
I thought the first one though was like, what was the one that's like, I'm gonna remodel my home, what do I do? I thought that was the first
I mean, that doesn't really apply to historic stuff. I just was gonna give a general update on the real estate market. I was thinking that was going to be like, 15 minutes, and then thinking that the inspector and the safety thing would be the bulk of the presentation and the rest for questions. That's just how I was looking at it.
Make a package.
For buying and
one of the-
selling homes, okay,
Buying, selling
Got it.
homes, evaluating the state of your home at this point in time with
Mhm.
inspection and safety, as a starting point, right? Maybe that would be our first.
yeah, that sounds good.
And then going to adding things to your home like solar panels, working towards net zero or using sustainable materials. That would be a separate one about, the architectural integrity would be an important part of the discussion there, right?
Mhm.
Then there's the sort of setting up for an electric vehicle, the conservation and the landscape would be perhaps the third topic.
I saw EV with solar, I don't know why. EV people or solar people?
No, or you're talking about
Or the same
rewiring
person.
your home, making sure you've got the electricity to be able to power up your EV vehicle.
Yeah, and you can run solar to use the EV, like you're trying to think of.
Well, for most people,
renewable
they don't even have the ability to really have a fast enough charger set up in their homes to charge.
energy. You hire an electrician, $1,000, 2,000 most, and you're done. That's the conversation. That's
Right,
not-
so is that? But it would be, they're talking about just the most effective system for home plug-in electric vehicles, whether it's solar or not, but it could be solar.
Yeah, solar's not
I
gonna
don't know if
charge. It's-
solar's gonna be
the-
cranky you up enough.
It's not
power
gonna do
all the
it.
time.
It's 5 minutes. You wanna charge it, it's a 5-minute conversation. I'll tell you right now.
Right.
Here's your 3 options. What do you wanna do? But we can, whatever one you wanna tag it to, but it
Right.
doesn't matter.
Mhm.
It won't take that much time.
Yeah, I almost think eliminate that as one of the topics in the
Yeah.
topic, and maybe, it could be included in one of the others somehow.
Cause we do get that question a lot, so
Yeah.
people do wanna ask it. Could write it up, have a handout, put it on something, put it on People Green's website. Anyway, yeah, so next, what was that last page? Sustainable landscape.
And it goes to conservation and sustainable
Yeah.
landscapes.
Net zero homes.
And the net zero homes and the building envelope at HVAC is very similar, because
Yes,
the only way you're gonna get to net zero is to deal with those things. So,
but net zero has also gotta be solar. You're gonna have to have some kind of energy.
yes, you have to have either wind, solar, or geothermal.
Geothermal, yeah. So I'd almost see that one with solar.
So, yeah, so I'm thinking there might be ways to sort of combine these,
Yeah.
like, okay, some about the structure itself and its interior, the building envelope and HVAC system, using sustainable materials, that would be one type of topic also where we bring in the architectural integrity component into the discussion. Reaching net zero is a different, it will make matches with conservation techniques as some way of, ways of getting to net zero. Also, the solar panels would be something you could mention there, or even your EV vehicle, obviously.
Yeah.
Would all be potentially part of that discussion. I'm thinking, these are all good topics. There are ways of maybe pushing them together a little bit into 3 separate categories of discussions.
Are you saying maybe there's too many though? Is that what we're
Well-
hoping to cut some out?
Well, let's say we did that first grouping of 3 as one. You could do like sustainable materials and sustainable landscaping. You could do like upgrading your house inside and out, right, or something like
Yeah.
that.
I was gonna say, what if you did an inside one, an outside one, and a safety one?
Yeah, or you could do
Yeah.
it that way.
I like that.
So yeah, you could combine the sustainable materials with the conservation techniques. And that would cover like the inside. You could do the solar panels with the landscaping, and you could do outside kind of thing. Okay.
And then the safety is your fire department, your inspections.
Okay. Well, I think that would give us some guidance to for Mary Ellen and Greg and I to start contacting people, see when they're available, see how they match up with some of these things. And then start to assign dates and things.
And if you just want to give me just a general sketch of what you'd like to call that particular day, like I said, you don't have to have the name of the speakers for the posters or for the magazine, but even if you just have the general topic, the dates, the time, and then we can get that to our department.
But the more the better. What's the magazine deadline?
About 2 months before, but January, February is combined, so we would need to have it by the beginning of November for the January magazine for the February event. And yeah, well,
Right.
do I keep pushing?
Okay, so you need by the end of this month, something to put in the magazine.
Beginning of November, yeah.
Beginning of November 1st. You got that down? Somebody got that down? Okay, 'cause I won't remember unless I
Even if
write it
it's
down.
just to save the dates for the February one, and then we can repeat it in the at the beginning of the March issue. And then, like I said, we've got website and social media in between.
Mhm.
Now, we don't need to design the poster, right? You have someone to do that?
That's just the other reason why I'm pushing for it early.
Okay, good.
If it gets, if you say, I don't want the poster now, we don't wanna do the poster till January, then my people are gonna be booked up on the Residence Academy, and they're not gonna have time to do it, so.
You just need the info, not us to design the poster.
Correct.
Okay, that gives us marching orders. We'll try to get together in the next week to start calling people. Nailing some things down, and we'll get you as much information as we can before the end of the month.
Right. I mean, if we can get just the topics nailed down
Right.
for dates, that'd be enough to get something in the magazine.
Okay. That's it for education.
Thanks, Al. You guys are doing great stuff. I hate
Yeah,
to
oh,
say
this
that,
is
but
amazing. This is really impressive.
we really appreciate it.
Excited. I want to come. I want to help. I can help you try to get people to talk.
With our budget, I think they'll allow some small, like desserts or coffee and tea if we
It's up
had.
to you. I would save a little bit for printing posters, although we could do some of those in-house depending on how many you wanted. Could probably get that done in-house. Yeah, you could do coffee, tea, cookies, whatever you want. Just
Okay.
keep in mind, you're gonna want, if you put cookies out, you're gonna want gluten-free cookies too.
Yeah, I'll check with the library and see what their parameters are, but that might only take a couple $100, out of the 1,500, so the rest could be used for advertising, printing, whatever. So I think we're gonna be okay. Okay, all right.
Good. Advisory board transition. Are you guys still going through that?
Scratched it. Too much hassle.
Right then.
Yeah, I know it's breaking your heart. I do think it'll be more efficient, though. I do. I mean, we're struggling to make a quorum. ESB last week we had to cancel on Thursday to make a quorum. So hopefully just dedicated, people that are committed and gonna be able to show up every month and get some work done and then do a lot of work outside the meeting. Hopefully that'll do it. And I was really excited by the comp plan. I think it aligns really nice with the comp plan. We have the clear vision of the comp plan and detailed recommendations from the comp plan that you're gonna get to see even before I get to see them in that level of detail, and then a large advisory board to help make it happen. What?
Is in the final plan, is this notion of subcommittees gonna be formalized as part of each board?
Yes, it can, if the board wants it to and it makes sense, yes. And we can do that ahead of time or not. But the trick that I learned the hard way is that I'm gonna say this really loud, just for the public. If we want to formalize the subcommittee and make it an official subcommittee, we absolutely can, and we did that in the past, and we can make it for a temporary amount of time or a permanent amount of time. But then that subcommittee is subject to all of the municipality governance, so you can't meet without a quorum, which is crazy.
Right.
Like you say there's the 6 folks that are on the subcommittee, then you can't meet unless you have 4 of them present. You can't even chat together. And you have to make everything public and advertise it. So if it's an unofficial subcommittee, which could just happen, we can call it a subcommittee, But if it's less official and there's just 3 people of the 9 members, because the 9 members of the advisory board that said there's 3 or even 4, you can have up to 4 people on that subcommittee. Then they can meet whenever they want.
It would function just like your subcommittee for the education event.
Yeah.
Or the Brick Streets group.
Exactly like you're doing now.
But my ongoing concern, of course, is the sort of disappearance of historic preservation. In our last meeting, you said, well, it's not gonna be in the title, but we will have a subcommittee.
Yeah.
But not necessarily.
We can make a
because
form
basically,
subcommittee, yeah.
depending on who's on that board and what it's made of, those people may decide, well, now we don't want a subcommittee on historic preservation, right? So there wouldn't necessarily be a subcommittee created unless you had some dedicated folks who really advocated for and made sure that that board voted on having this subcommittee.
It's always gonna be up to residents to do the work like it is now, so.
Right.
For sure, and we can put in there whatever we want, we want there to be a subcommittee, but if there's not people that are gonna show up to that meeting. Then do you have a subcommittee? I don't know.
So do you have historic preservation?
Yeah.
That's the
Just
question,
The
right?
same
That's,
as now, if we didn't
it's-
have a quorum for 6 months, would we have historic preservation? Yes, but
well, because,
maybe.
well, I'm just bringing that up because
Yeah.
you mentioned that was. You're doing this in place of, well, we're not putting you in the title, but we will have a subcommittee, but not really.
Well, but
That's
if
what
you,
you're
if you
saying.
think about it. If people from this committee went to the first meeting even as the public, maybe not even as a member of the committee. And raised the concern of, we think it would be a good idea to establish an historic preservation committee, subcommittee within your group. To me, if it happens at the first meeting and it gets established, it's gonna then probably stay on as an ongoing kind of subcommittee of that group.
Yeah, and then we can
I
put it in
think
the agenda, check in.
What we
with the
can't do is
subcommittee.
have a gap where it doesn't occur at the start. And I think we could probably muster enough forces to get that
Yeah,
on board at the beginning, so it becomes a part of their regular agenda.
that's perfect.
That
The intention is to
might
have,
work.
yeah. The intention is to have 3 people from historic preservation, 3 people from ESB, and 3 people from EDC on that board. And when we look at the resumes, if someone has a combination, that's even better. But then the question kind of will come to like, is it gonna be exactly 3? There's this combo person that brings historic preservation and economic development or sustainability, because that's their job. Do they get counted over here, so I can't say.
And let's not forget sorry, Mandy.
Oh, no, it's okay, you're
I was
good.
just gonna say, let's not forget the ordinance, which calls the primary duties of the board, to encourage preservation of historic resources within the community. So that's part of their charge, whether there's a subcommittee or not. So you're right, it would be up to the people who are appointed that come from the historic preservation background to make sure that gets filled out, but it's spelled out by the commission as a desired goal. Looking through the other goals here to see if there's other things.
Maybe talking about the existing ordinance
The brand new one, yeah,
or the brand new one.
brand new one.
I didn't know there was a brand new one.
No, the one that you already saw,
Oh,
the ordinance that already
But if you
passed, that,
Drill down into the duties of it. So,
the one that already passed 6 months ago. That goes into effect first.
it's definitely mentioned in there.
You want me to look for it? Send it to you? You have it.
We get it.
You have it.
I have it somewhere.
Alright.
All right, anyway.
No, but no update. But we did a good job about documenting, we took the lead about all of the duties, so that work plan can continue.
Comprehensive plan, I already talked about that. Did Matt send us anything for the economic development? Historical Society, Grace, do you have anything to report?
The only thing to report is that the fundraiser happened. It was super successful. I participated in the auction as well and was swiftly outbid by other people, unfortunately. But they raised quite a lot of funds, and yeah, that was the only update since their last meeting that was in September. Was really just like a lot of planning for that event that took place last week, basically.
Grace, you want to maybe forward to that board, the state historic preservation plans request for, that survey they're sending out? to
Yeah.
the pub-
Absolutely, the PA SHPO one you sent?
I just sent that this afternoon to the board.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why don't you go ahead and forward that to them? so they
Sure.
have a chance to participate. Okay, good. Planning board, I'll fill in for Marilyn tomorrow. Like I said, we're gonna be looking at the comprehensive plan.
That's right.
Exciting, that works out well. Partnership Design Committee, Mary Ellen, anything?
Yeah, so this was the first one that I attended, since I was just newly appointed to this, board. So we met on October the 6th. The design committee met and discussed the completed voluntary guidelines that were created. A formal presentation to the commissioners will be done on October the 24th at their discussion session. The committee discussed who will present and what the presentation will entail. They expect to have 15 to 20 minutes to present. And there was some discussion with that limited amount of time, and the guidelines was a pretty thick looking book. That they were going to summarize with notes and PowerPoints with photos, and then they were trying to decide who was actually going to present. I will say this was the first time I ever went to this meeting, and I met a lot of names that I've heard, and they are a high energy, great group of people. Not that you guys are, but I actually did really enjoy sitting in on the meeting. They want to include some photos of other places where this has been done, like South Side, downtown, Market Square, examples of what we want in something for the board or for the commissioners to walk away with. They had a hard copy there, like I said. They talked about having it posted on the committee's website. I don't know if the last time I looked, it was not up there yet. But they wanted it to have its own like separate page under their own committee website. And then the plan, as far as talking points for the commissioners, will be that the committee will ask the municipality for $30,000. They do think that this is going to be a tall order with the trash increase. They would know in December if the $30,000 was approved. And the plan right now is just to present, set the table, ask for the one-time jump of 30,000, and then expect to fund this project with grants or community events. Then they're going to ask the commissioners to endorse the guidelines and consider adoption of sign ordinance. It's not just design guidelines, it's a critical issue that change to signage is needed, and explain why it's critical, because it's for safety as well as aesthetics. One of the things that they talked about was, why do we drive down Washington Road and have to turn our head to look at a sign? That's a safety issue. Aesthetics should reflect a place that we love. It needs to be unique, vibrant, special. We need to feel like we're best in class, and signage is in need of updates and repairs. And it's not an ordinance, it's not a law, it's just the next step to improve uptown, improve traffic to businesses, ultimately making more money. Make signage simpler for business owners and those who own the buildings. And what could we face as far as any negatives? They don't expect any negatives from the commissioners, but they do ultimately expect negative feedback from the public, with concerns that it's just going to cause more construction.
Mm,
And that was it.
I appreciate that update.
Yes,
You gotta give
thank
the
you.
pitch yourself, gotta come to the meeting.
Yeah, it was great. I enjoyed myself.
All right, thank you.
Sure.
All right, I think that is it. Is there anything else for the good of the order?
I don't think so. Next month, I will ask you to consider your December meeting, which is traditionally canceled because the third Monday of the month falls right in a week where people are usually traveling. So
Right, so we can make that
we
decision.
make that
for-
decision next week. Yeah,
So keep
but I
that,
usually try to push out the information quite in advance so nobody shows up in the snow and gets mad.
right. Okay. So our next meeting will be November 20th, 5 p.m. Hope to see you all then. So we are adjourned.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
good
thank you.
stuff.